I'm Christopher Hale, and I approve this message. To the bullies, I will stand up to you. To the downtrodden, I will defend you. To the Democrats, I will unite you. To the Republicans, I will persuade you. To young and new voters, I will fight for you. To Scott Desjardins, I will defeat you. And to every Tennessean, I'll fight like hell in the United States Congress to make life better for you and your family. I'm asking for your support.
Hey, Chris, how are you doing? No sound.
Going to try that again. Shawn, can you hear me now? Shawn, hey, Shawn, are you able to hear me?
I can hear you now, yes.
Perfect. Shawn, give us a little introduction about yourself. I was giving you an introduction. You're a multi-generation Murfreesboro, and you grew up here as well. You went to University MTSU, got your MBA from Memphis. You're a realtor in town. I was going to ask, did my check cash this month? Are we current with you?
We're good, and thank you very much for the invitation to come in and speak to you on your show. You've got a great following, so I appreciate it a lot.
Good. Well, thank you for being on. Shawn, give me a little bit of introduction yourself and your candidacy for city council and why you're running for.
Sure. I'm like you said, I'm born and raised here. I stayed here, went to school at MTSU. I went to Memphis to get an MBA. Finished near the top of my class, or at the top of my class. After I got my MBA, I went to the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, for some lean process management, Six Sigma black belt training to really know how to really break down processes. That's supply chain processes, business processes, things like that, to make the whole system of processes easier and more efficient to deal with. So I have a real keen eye to look at numbers, look at the trail of a flow chart, and figure out how to make a flow chart's bottleneck issues go away. So in a government issue, when you get government bigger and bigger, sometimes you can shrink it a little bit, not by really changing anything, but just the processes themselves.
Well, and Shawn, where, in your opinion, in Murfreesboro and our city government, you talked in your campaign this time and last time really about the excess spending. If you were to scalper, where do you want to scalp our budget? Where should we focus on?
Well, when we look at our budget, schools are a huge part of our budget. Education is very important to me. My wife is a public school teacher. I've got 2 kids in public schools now. I've got a third one that'll be in public schools in 2 years. So schooling is very important. The next biggest line item that we're going up to is you got parks is a very, very large line item. If the city of Murfreesboro could make their park system self-sufficient, which means those fee-based systems, your ball field rentals, your Sportscom Patterson Park, where people pay to go swimming for the day or to go to the gym or things like that. If you made those ball field rentals, Patterson Park and Sportscom make the whole park system self-sufficient by making those fee bases go up a little bit, where it's a user fee instead of a tax everybody fee, you take off that huge parks line item off the budget and look how much money we could save to give back to the rest of the community, to make our schools better, to take care of our firemen, take care of our police, take care of the things that government on a local level is supposed to do.
And Shawn, I wanted to talk to you. I don't know if this is an area we would agree on or not, but I was present on the June 1 rally in Murfreesboro at the Black Lives Matter rally. And
Sure.
it was my belief that the government's decision to send in the National Guard was frankly a big waste, a 6-figure waste of taxpayer dollars. But I want to talk to you more broadly about policing and budgets and responding to the BLM movement and the George Floyd murder. Has that affected your thinking on any way? Is there a better way to execute spending in Murfreesboro City Police Departments and standards?
Well, thank you very much for that question. I appreciate it. I think every time one of these big news things happen, everybody takes a look and they try to reassess what's really going on. And I don't think I've ever spoke to anybody that watched that George Floyd video that didn't just sit there and just in total just all that something that's crazy could happen and something that's just that nuts. But there are bad cops, and we need to find a way to get rid of bad cops. But we got a lot of good cops. Cops can be heroes. In Murfreesboro, in the year of 2019, looking back from 19 to 18, our crime rate has went up 9.8%. So when we talk about defunding the police or moving things over here, moving things over there, could some processes do better? Could we add some psychologists to take care of homelessness and maybe even drug addiction or suicides? Hey, that's great. But let's do it under the police umbrella. That way they've got a backup. But we need to take care of, if you've been paying attention to the news the past couple weeks, we've had a shooting every day. Every day you can get on social media and look where cars have been broken into, houses are broken into, drug overdoses, St. Thomas using Narcan every day. We've got to be able to get out on the streets and let those police do their jobs and solve some of these crimes. Because as a realtor, I have an interesting perspective. I have people that are coming from all over the country to live in Murfreesboro because of our great city and the great community and the great people that live here. And the very first couple questions when people move from out of the area, how safe is it? How are the schools? And how is the crime rate? Now, those are questions as a realtor I can't answer because they're against federal housing laws to answer. But when you think about it, those are the first 3 questions that people answer. We need to be able to answer those that we're the best.
Well, and I think what's interesting about that is that the issue you brought up is that the quality of life is what brings people to Murfreesboro.
Yes.
That is the number one reason that people come to Murfreesboro. Of the growth of Murfreesboro, both the strengths of the growth, but also too, is there such thing as growing too quickly? Is there downsides for our growth, and what is the proper growth rate for Murfreesboro?
Well, I don't think it's a growth rate perspective. It's a proactive versus reactive thing. We've grown so fast, so quick without being proactive to the growth, without being able to put infrastructure in as we grow. So the city council approves subdivisions, and hey, not all subdivisions are bad. Growth is a good thing, but uncontained growth is bad. If you're going into a neighborhood where a neighborhood's being proposed or being built, and there's already it takes 45 minutes to get from where my office is on the square to that subdivision because of traffic at high, that's not a good time. That's not a good area to be growing in at that time. Will that neighborhood maybe better at a certain time when the traffic delays and the road infrastructure is there? Absolutely. But there's some times when you need to hold the growth back, Let the growth infrastructure grow around the growth, and then grow with the infrastructure. Be proactive with the growth, not reactive with the growth. Don't grow and then go, oh no, we got to build 2 more schools, 6 more roads. Our sewage is now at capacity because we grew too fast. We need to look at the growth and take care of our growth as it happens, not as it after it happens.
One of the questions that I get quite a bit, and you would actually have a particular this in Murfreesboro, the housing rates go up, the affordability goes down. Are we displacing the elderly community, the low-income community in Murfreesboro? And what can we do to help increase housing in this community?
Well, absolutely. As the prices go up, supply and demand takes over, and the more people that move here from out of areas, you've got a very thriving, growing community already just from within. Then you add 70 people a day moving in. The supply is just out of this world, which just keeps growing prices on rentals and for sale properties both. And then you've got 3 or 4 large investment firms that buy properties here to rent out, and then they've got to make sure they get the return that they need to get to buy those houses. So in all those situations, it just pushes money up. And the cost of land goes up because of it. And that's where the idea of growing with townhomes is affordable housing to nowadays, because the cost of land is so high. You can't build a 1,200 square foot house for $150,000 anymore. It's costing $80,000 just to buy the piece of land. There's no money to build on anymore. And to get loans and things like that for a buyer, your house cannot exceed your land can't exceed a third of the value of the house. So if you're spending $80,000 on land, your cost of your house is already hit $240,000 immediately. So we've got to figure out ways to grow the housing market with some alternative housing styles, whether it's box homes, whether it's a different style of townhome. We've got to be able to grow with the community and make those affordable housings there, but it's got to also work with just simple supply-demand economics. You've got to figure out how to make the demand and the supply meet that equilibrium at the right place.
One of the things that has been a particular issue that we get highlighted on again and again and again is the MED and what we're going to do with the money that we have from the sale. And that's what Andy Dickey's asking here. Andy asked, what would you do with the MED sell money? Do you have a sense of what you would do with that in leadership?
I think we need to put it back for a rainy day and pay debt down. I think we need to be a lot more fluid. As of right now, 53% of the people in Murfreesboro are rental people, which in a transient economy, when the economy goes down, those transient people will move to where their jobs are and where they are. We've got to get people in home ownership roles. That way, when the market turns down, they have places, something that's holding them here. They will look for other jobs that are here. So let's pay the debt down where we don't have to worry about our sales tax revenue. I mean, you look at what the hits we've gone through in the past couple of months with COVID. We don't even know how that's going to be long lasting in our economy. But let's talk about a normal downturn economy when you kind of anticipated going down. This was totally caught out of surprise and it's hurt us, but we should recover quickly. But in just a normal downturn economy, those people that all these 53% of renters, they will start moving other places. We need to flip that back where there's a positive amount of home ownership to people that are renting. That way people stay here, spend their money here, pay their taxes here, and let's pay that MED money to pay down our debt and put it back for a rainy day.
One of the questions that I get, that obviously there's such a distinction between what happens at the federal level and what happens at the local level, and people get confused on that.
Absolutely.
I want to talk to you about property taxes.
Okay.
We had the huge hike. I guess it was last August, give or take.
Yes.
And what led to that hike? Was necessary? I know liberals, progressives like myself, is we were down the road on a revenue expenditure. 15 plus years, we woke up one morning and decided that we had to do this. What happened in August 2019, and what can we do to prevent that?
Well, I think if you talk to the current city council and the councils before them, they were all going to tell you that they should have raised taxes incrementally the whole time. I'm not really a fan of tax increases and things like that. But when you go about spending $20 million on a new soccer park, which, I mean, if your kids play soccer, I'm not against soccer. Soccer is a great thing. But when you have necessities that aren't getting met, you have to handle the necessities before you go out spending soccer and going to the park and going to play kickball, whatever you want to do. The problem is we've spent too much money on putting borough splash in, putting soccer parks in, putting greenway spaces. Great. I mean, during this COVID situation, I live right near Barfield Park where there's a greenway stop. And I've seen more people using Barfield Park and the greenway since COVID started than I've had in the past several years combined. But we've got to get to where we're spending money on needs first and then wants second, and that revenue will take care of its own. And then we need to analyze the budget on a yearly basis and say, all right, is this something we can really deal with? Is this something we need to privatize? Is this something we need to move forward with? Is this something we need a service that we need to add on to or take away from? We need to just be more fiscally smart with our money to make sure the taxpayers are getting a good quality of life while not being taxed overwhelmingly.
Well, and one of the things I think that's interesting that I don't necessarily think Shawn Wright and perhaps the loudest voices in BLM agree on a lot of things, but I think one of the things that's interesting is that one of the movements within police reform is it's wrongly called, I think, defund the police, but really one of the ideas is zero-based funding, and that on zero-based budgeting. Do you think that Murfreesboro should do zero-based budgeting from year to year, or should we simply start at the previous year's budget and build from there?
I'm a fan of zero-based budgeting. Zero-based budgeting is a lot of cities around the country do it. The problem with adding to your budget on a year-to-year basis is you get to a point in the certain year where department heads or something are going, oh, we got to spend $30,000. We're going to lose this money next year. That's garbage. Let's set the budget up where on a year-to-year basis we can analyze it, because just adding something on top of something is a terrible idea. And also it leads to this hyper hole of going, well, we had a 9% cut in the budget this year. Well, really, we didn't have a cut at all. We just cut what you were going to add on. That's not a cut. That's still an add. So, yeah, zero-based budgeting it seems to be a good plan.
Look, Democrats and Shawn Wright, progressives and Shawn Wright are agreeing on this, that we do need zero-based budgeting, because what it does is it makes us reflect every year and discern about priorities. I think what's problematic about simply starting with the previous year's budget is it's baked into the cake that that the priorities are already there, that 95% of the way things are going are correct. It doesn't allow us, I think, to reflect deeply upon our values and how the world is changing around us. I want to switch just briefly to federal and local. I'm running for United States Congress, and I'd be the first congressman from Murfreesboro since Bart Gordon, actually. And Congressman Gordon was actually one of the few congressmen from Murfreesboro in the 20th century. What is the top legislative priorities that I can do in Congress, from your view, to make life better for citizens of Murfreesboro, Tennessee?
I think the big issue that Congress could handle right now for Murfreesboro, Tennessee, is taking care of our small businesses. Our small businesses have taken a major hit during the COVID breakdown. When you can have big box stores and big corporate chains stay open, but yet our small businesses have to close their doors, that puts those small businesses, who are our number one employer overall, small businesses, that puts them at a great disadvantage, a comparative disadvantage that they will never catch up from. If Walmart's open, Home Depot's open, Lowe's is open, the groceries are all open, and this is open and that's open, but little Jimmy and little Susie have to close their doors, and that's how they make their living. Congress has got to figure out a way to take care of these small businesses, not with a loan that they have to pay back that may or may not be forgiven, not with a promise. They need to figure out a way to take care of these small businesses that have literally lost their livelihood during COVID.
Well, you work in a small business capacity, and I ran a nonprofit, and we know the number one thing that those negatively impacts small businesses and small organizations is uncertainty and not knowing what the future looks like. And I think what was so remarkable, I gotta get political here. My opponent, Scott Desjardins, originally was against the small business PPP loan, which I think, it saved thousands of jobs in Murfreesboro and across the community. But there were issues with that loan. And I think one of the things I've seen with that loan is originally you had to spend all your money. For it to be forgivable, you had to spend all your money within a certain time period, and it had to go to payroll. And so you had folks who were kind of making up jobs for employees that it wouldn't really work, just to simply,
right,
to oblige by it. It seems to me, in retrospect that cash payments alone and letting the small businesses decide how to spend that correctly and having some audit procedures, of course, but allowing not a one-size-fits-all method. And I think that, look, I'm a Democrat, a proud Democrat, a lifelong Democrat, but I think that when government tries to over-regulate cash payments, it creates headache. This post-auditing means testing is going to cause such headaches for small businesses. It wasn't enough money to begin with to do that. I actually think that one of the things I'd be intrigued about, and your idea is, I want to see the extension of the PPP program towards social distancing implementations. If you look at Puckett's, down the square, how much money they've spent on creating social distancing mechanisms that they're paying out of pocket for. Social distancing is expensive, and the government told us we had to do it to operate. So, I think the government should help pay for that. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm not real big on government handing this out and all that, but if the government's mandating something, that they need to figure out a way to pay for it. I mean, there's no telling how many of those plexiglass shields, how much they cost. But it's one of these. I'm a free market guy. Let's figure out a way to let these businesses stay open and let the free market take care of it. If they want, instead of telling everybody, hey, you got to shut down, let's say, okay, you got to open. And if you want to wear masks, you're going to wear masks, and people that want to go to the places that wear masks are going to go there. If people get turned off by the places that don't wear masks, they're not going to go there. And let's let the free market take care of this instead of shutting businesses down where they can't respond. I think the free market would take care of it all, and you would see a lot of the social distancing happening anyway. You would see the people wearing the masks that they need to that people think they need to wear and that they do wear. I think if you let the business take care of it and let them see what the market is going to bear, I think it takes care of itself.
I guess I'll admit that I'm skeptical. So you would say you're against a Mayor McFarland or Mayor Ketron doing a mandated mask wearing or the governor. Is that fair to say?
Well, I've been looking at all these exemptions on these Nashville's and several others that have come out, and there's so many exemptions that I don't really think that it's going to make a difference anyway. I think people are going to find out a way. I've equated it yesterday to somebody with an emotional support animal. Yeah, exactly. Well, some people went on the internet, got an emotional support animal so they could take little Fido on the plane with them or wherever they want to go. They didn't need it because they just went on the internet and filled it out. It was more to get their pet with them. Well, how many of these people would say not wear the mask and that's government mandated? They don't have to show any proof of a medical condition and just walk around without it anyway. So I'm wondering how many people would take advantage of that situation to begin with all the exemptions that are laid out.
What's so interesting to me is like my office that I'm running for forces me to start in Laverne, which is pretty darn urban, and goes south to Murfreesboro and gets in really rural areas very quickly.
Right.
And I have seen the increase of mask usage in Murfreesboro significantly.
Absolutely.
It's my sense that even during the stay-at-home orders, I guess gosh was at most of April and a little bit into May, it does seem today in July that the use of masks is up by a manifold measurement, less so in the rural areas. I think what's hard about this is it's hard for me as someone who's running in dense areas and rural areas. There is not a one-size-fits-all methodology to COVID-19. But I know you're pro-life. I call myself pro-life. How we get there is differently. But to me, wearing masks is pro-life. It's a pro-life thing that we need to do. What would you say? In terms of from a business perspective, we saw that Goldman Sachs study that came out earlier this week. It's something that not wearing masks took away. I think my math might be wrong, but $1 trillion, like a significant part of the GDP of this country. Give me the business perspective on why you would encourage Murfreesboroans to wear masks.
I would like to look at that study. I haven't seen it, so I can't really speak on it. I've noticed, just like you said, in Murfreesboro, I've noticed a great increase in the amount of masks worn. And this is without a government mandate. This is without anybody saying, hey, you got to wear a mask. It's just increased over time. In March and April, you never saw any, and now you see quite a few. And if you go to the farmer's market every single weekend, the first week there was nobody wearing masks. The second week there was maybe 10% and 20%, and then it keeps growing up and up and up. Like I said earlier, I'm a free market guy. If you're losing business because your people aren't wearing masks, you probably need to wear a mask. If if it's important to your customers, you need to oblige by what your customers want. If you're losing businesses with your customers because they don't feel safe to go into your business, and put mask on your put mask on your employees, make them feel safe. So again, free market takes care of itself. Let the market dictate, and you'll see some businesses go out of business for not wearing masks. You'll see some on the uptake for wearing masks. Just let the businesses figure that out.
And Shawn, we're kind of near the end here, so I wanted to talk to you. I wanted to get your advice, and then I'm going to give you my advice.
Right.
That's okay. So you are you the only GOP endorsed city council candidate here in Murfreesboro? Is that correct?
I am the only endorsed GOP candidate.
So I'm running against a Republican congressman who seems to actually, he usually loses about 35% of the primary vote here in Rutherford County. What is your sense of how I can make an appeal to folks here in Murfreesboro, to Republicans here in Murfreesboro? What do I need to do to start building relationships and convincing them that I'm the man for this job? What would your advice be to me?
Well, 66% of the voters in Murfreesboro identify as right-leaning, whether they're Republican or just right-leaning. And they're very, like you said earlier, they're pro-business, pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, pro-10th Amendment, which gets left out a lot. And so you've got to appeal to that base to win those people over.
Well, I think that, I think that one thing we've done is every day in this race for the United States Congress, we've lifted up a small business using our platform. I'm proud to have the biggest platform of any political leader in this county, and actually we think in the state of Tennessee. And I want to use, my platform to personally lift up small businesses, and also to my perch in the United States government and the United States Congress to do so, because what you said is absolutely right. Is small businesses are the lifeblood of our community, and COVID has been a killer of our lives and livelihoods. But the first victims have been small businesses here across the state of Tennessee. And Shawn, I think if I can, the thing I would say to you to have, if you're open to my advice to Democrats,
absolutely.
I think that rejecting the fringe elements of your party that have been infused with white supremacists, folks that are revisionist about the Civil War. Every movement in this country has extremists that do not represent the mainstream. My party does too. I got to say, I think I've seen a rise in right-wing nationalism that scares me. But my sense is that that's not who you are, and that's not who you're standing for, and that you want to be a fighter for all Murfreesboro.
Yeah, I thank you. And I think we've lost the ability to sit down and communicate with the other side. Whether you're talking about Reagan and Tippy, you're talking about Clinton and Newt, great leaders reach across the aisle to bring people together and talk through issues. They're extremists on every side, and they're all bad. Extremism in any issue is bad. We've got to be able to sit down at the table with each other and say, this is what's best for the community, and let's figure out a way to get there. And we've all lost that. The Republicans, the Democrats, the Libertarians, whoever you want to talk about, we've all got to be able to get back on the table and talk to one another and lead from the front.
Well, I think Murfreesboro should be the front and center. That was the Murfreesboro that you and I grew up in. That was the Murfreesboro that defined our childhood. We have one final question for you. I think it's actually pretty interesting. Jim Wright, I don't know if you can see that, says, what is the 10th Amendment? That's a very good question. You want to take that?
Well, anything that's not pertained in the Constitution is left to the states to decide. So if it's not in the Constitution, the states have a right to mandate it from their level without having to push it to the federal government. The federal government can't push something that's not in the Constitution down to the state.
Well, Shawn, thank you so much. I appreciate it. My check cashed, and I'm up to date on rent. And I wish you the best, and I'm sure we'll talk soon. I'll see you on the campaign trail.
Thank you very much, Chris, for having me. I really appreciate you having me on and putting me in front of all your supporters. I really appreciate you all. I look forward to helping and speaking to all of the community so we can work together to keep Murfreesboro the great place it's always been.
Amen. Thank you, Shawn. Have a great night.
Thank you. You too.
Folks, that was Shawn Wright. Shawn Wright is, once again, a GOP-endorsed candidate for city council here in Murfreesboro, but he comes with patriotism, with love of this community, with some common sense ideas. And I think the big thing that he and I agreed on is zero-based budgeting. Liberals, particularly who are concerned, progressives who are concerned about the oversized police budgets and that are not reflecting community priorities, would love zero-based budgeting, but so would conservatives who are concerned about debt and deficits and that overspending. That's an issue we should come together on, and particularly around criminal justice reform here in Murfreesboro and throughout Tennessee, and it's something that I want to be a champion in the United States Congress. We are starting up the live streams again. We had a busy month, a great month. Over 3,000 Tennessean or American citizens and people from across the state of Tennessee and all 50 states in this country have invested in my campaign for the United States Congress. They're $27.11 is the average online grassroots contribution. So I am humbly asking for your support tonight. We cannot win this election against Scandal Blade, Scott Desjardins without your generosity. I need you. I'm asking for your support. You saw that we just had a new ad that we put out that was paid for by the resources that everyday Tennesseans like you put into this campaign. You see it in your yards. You see it in the streets. You see it in your communities. Our campaign's surging. Scott Desjardins is in deep trouble. Our beloved Tennessee, our beloved America are in trouble. We've been ravaged by a deadly virus that's come for our lives and our livelihoods, and Congressman Desjardins hasn't shown up. He has never shown up in his career, in his decade in office. He got rich, and you and I got sick. So if you're with me tonight, please go donate at ChristopherHale.com. That's Christopher Hale. We got good name identity right here, .com. If you can only give $5, please give $5 a month. What you're doing is you're not investing in me. I'm not going to go buy McDonald's with it. You're investing with this movement that is going to bring generational change to Tennessee and America. Shawn and I didn't talk about this, but Scott Desjardins has been to the Murfreesboro City Council 0 times in a decade. Not once has he shown up. Not once has he stood before our elected leaders and said, what can I do to make life better for our community? You know me. You know me. You've met me. I know you. And you know, if you haven't met me, that you will. But the most important thing you know is that I'm going to fight like hell to make life better for you and your families in the United States Congress. Get involved with this campaign. If you're with us, pledge to vote at 31996. Text hell yes to 31996. We will not spam you. We just need to know who our supporters are so that we can go find other people to support us as well. This campaign is taking off. We have now 200 volunteers who've made about 30,000 contacts with Tennessee voters. We found 250 more supporters just this very night. That room filled within the guidelines of the CDC with young people, with the elderly, with people of color, people of all races, finding supporters for our movement to reclaim the highest values of Tennessee and America. If you want a yard sign, we got them in stock. We have about 400 in the ground, but we're going to have 10,000 by Election Day. Get your yard signs at ChristopherHale.com/HaleYes. They are a sign of hope. They are a sign of new things to come. So thank you so much for being with me tonight. It's the 4th of July weekend. Please wear a mask. We will be at the Laverne Fireworks Show tomorrow. We will be at Dunlap for the parade on early Saturday morning, and we will have an event, a social distance event at Waffle House down in Marion County on Saturday. We will be in Tracy City and Grundy County for the parade. We will be in Pikeville for their parade. We do parades well in this campaign. And then finally, we'll be at the fireworks show on Thames Ford Lake in Winchester. And then Sunday, Sunday, we have this big event that, once again, within the guidelines of the CDC and social distancing in McMinnville and Warren County. We have dozens of folks, RSVP. Former state rep Kevin Dunlap will be introducing me. Kevin Dunlap, Warren County, went 68-30 for Donald Trump. Kevin Dunlap won 70%. So the only politician more popular in Warren County is Democrat Kevin Dunlap. So I'm honored that he'll be with me to introduce me on Sunday. And then we have a slew of events next week. Folks, this is the campaign to get time. This is the time to get behind us. We're surging. We're getting news nationally. The Washington Post has written about us. We've been at NPR. People know about this campaign. On November 3rd, the people of Tennessee are going to ask a question. Who fought for them? Who did it? I've spent my entire life fighting for you and your families. I've gotten results for Tennesseans right here in this community. I fought for our jobs. I fought for our kids. I fought for our future. And I'm asking you to fight for me. Let's win this race. In 124 days, I'm going to take the stage as Congressman-elect Christopher Hale, and I'm going to usher in a new generation of politics for our people and our posterity. Thank you. God bless you, and may God protect our troops.